So today I will be interviewing a very old friend of mine, probably the oldest friend that I have that I actively keep in touch with. And rock star. We've gone through some pretty interesting life difficulties within environments where we weren't necessarily welcome. And really, what I hope to talk about today is a sense of community. Right. I'm not here to agree with you or you even demand that you even agree with me, but I think if we talk about community and love within a community and just kind of acceptance, I think there's real power there. And that's why I'd like to talk to my good friend, Derek. Some know him as Vision. And here he is. Let's let him in. Well, hello. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
I am doing well, good sir. How are you?
Doing good.
You gonna hop on camera there, good sir, or are we gonna
Yeah, let's
lack
figure.
our vision? Ha.
Let me see here. It's saying cannot start video. Failed start video. Please start doing that. It worked a second ago. I was
Here,
just
let
trying to
me
make.
go on. Alrighty, sir. Well, we got your camera going. It looks like maybe you're calling in from Antarctica or something. I don't know. Your graininess is pretty intense, right? Maybe but that's okay. I'm happy to talk to you. I really am kind of hoping that the conversation that I like, kind of where my head's at, and I'm certainly happy to explore wherever the conversation goes, is a little bit just kind of about community. What lack of community might make you desperate for, just and then also kind of what you've seen in, like, just kind of people being good in Salt Lake's underground, in European underground, right? You've certainly traveled to different areas of the world. And just kind of, yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm more interested in. I don't really, care about necessarily the hubbub of what's going on in today.
Yeah,
But just more of just like kind of, just the experiences you've had going throughout life, maybe some hardships that have shaped you into being a better person, and just how you've seen kind of some of that expressed through unlikely places.
cool.
And I guess what if we started off just kind of with like, do you remember when we first met?
Yeah, maybe not the exact moment, but I remember generally seeing you walk by, at high school, and
So
it's like,
I don't remember the first moment. I'm sure I saw you also as I was walking by, or you walking by, but the very
mhm.
first time that I remember us actually meeting, not seeing each other, but actually meeting, was I was kind of a dick to you, man. Yeah, man. You came up to me and you're like, "Hey, man, you like Slayer?" And I look down at my shirt and it says Slayer, and I was like, "Nah, man." I
Yeah,
just walked away. Sorry,
yeah.
like, what a jerk.
That's
Uh,
kind of that's cool though, because that was kind of your attitude back then, like the one
yeah,
with Judd. Hey man, where did you buy your leather jacket? You're like at the store that you buy leather jackets from.
yeah. Yeah,
That was pretty good.
so to put that in context, Judd is an old friend of ours, older friend of yours than me, and I used to make fun of him. He'd walk around like this chest kind of puffed out, and he'd like walk like real slow and like robotic, I felt. And I didn't know who he was. I thought he was funny looking. He's a little fat, and I'm a douchebag because I had a pretty miserable upbringing, and so I have to like assume that I better attack before I get attacked. And so I was kind of a jerk for no reason. And he walked up to me wearing a leather jacket and just trying to be a nice dude, trying to probably make a friend. And he walks up and he's like, "Hey, man, where'd you get that leather jacket?" I was like, I just look at him. Like, the place where you get leather jackets from. And I slam my locker and I just walk away. And yeah, I had a real problem with that, man. I had a real chip on my shoulder. And sometimes the most meaningful thing you can do is learn how to get out of your own way.
Yeah, but a little bit of those, rough edges from the old school goth scene. It's weird that I sort of miss it.
Mhm.
Not all of it. You know what I mean, but a little bit more. I don't know how to put it. I think people were more, cool about themselves and more less ready to cave in with pressure and stuff. You know what I mean? You were more, giving us crap, and you couldn't just automatically get respect. You'd have to earn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the cool thing, because right now, I don't know, I'm not getting into the scene, but it seems like it's a lot easier to just walk in. with the internet now, but back in the day, you actually had to like get to know people,
Yeah, you
things
had to
like that,
hustle and get to, yeah,
before people
absolutely, man. And people had to know that
had
you were
any
a good
respect for you.
guy. Yep, I get it. And that's interesting. And so is that part of the community aspect that you miss, is just kind of like just getting to see people and meet and greet?
Yeah, like a lot of my highlights, because I'm not really going out so much to the club anymore,
Mhm.
but I'll go to shows instead,
Mhm.
but a lot of the even so like we used to be going to the club and meeting people and making new friends, sometimes enemies, but mostly friends, and eventually the enemies become friends, that's usually how it goes, people
Yeah.
hate you for whatever reason, and then you BS for a while, and then you find out you actually have things in common, but now it's
Yep.
like that with both shows now, so.
There's something powerful about that, man. On the surface, right? I actually earlier I interviewed Terry Binkard, and yeah, it's funny, man. Yeah, it's funny
Our old
when,
teacher.
yeah, our old teacher from stage crew. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's funny how quickly people will judge you just by superficialities that are meaningless. The way you dress, right? What music you listen to. But if you actually give somebody a chance, if they're not, if you're talking to somebody and they're not interesting, chances are you're not listening hard enough, right? And there's something powerful about that. Like, it doesn't really matter what you believe. It doesn't really matter what your politics should be. Like you're a person, and like you're actually pretty interesting, man. Like I'm curious, like, where did you come from? What sort of, where do these thoughts come from? Like, how are you raised, right? That's cool. I haven't thought of it that way. And I like the way that you're thinking, in the sense of, not just the respect, having to get after it, but usually when you have to go up and meet people, right, you kind of feel nervous, you feel anxious, you put yourself out there, and if you did something stupid, well, then you beat yourself up over it, and you try not to be stupid going forward. And you kind of miss that, I think, in the internet age.
Yeah. And one thing I just would add to what you were saying a minute ago about hearing people and not thinking they're interesting.
Hmm.
A lot of times when we're talking to people, we're kind of thinking about the next thing that we're going to say, you know?
Mm. Hmm.
Like like I didn't want to do that when you were talking, but I
Hmm.
found myself kind of doing that. And I was like, don't do that.
Ah,
Bring it up
yeah.
later if you can. But if you actually kind of be present with people, then you can actually experience stuff. 'Cause a lot of times people are trying to like maybe prove their point or maybe validate whatever thing they have to say and feel included. But it's cooler when you can just kind of like try to shut that part of your mind off and just actually listen. And then
Mm.
like you were saying, then you actually find something interesting about the person that you wouldn't have ever known because you were too busy thinking about what you were going to say next instead of just paying attention to them. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, and it's good to get out of your head, because if you are just focused on what you're going to say next, it's very easy for that to be a non sequitur that doesn't even make sense within the conversation. And then what did you lose, right, by not actually making that connection and actually talking to that person? And so you've actually had some pretty interesting connections, whether it be here in Salt Lake, over in, I think you've done plenty of shows in LA, you've done shows in like Europe. Where's been kind of your favorite place where you've kind of felt welcomed just by strangers? They're like, man, this guy, man, Vision, right? Vision and Tragic Black are coming, or right.
mhm.
What place would you say that would be?
Kind of, everywhere you go, really. I mean, most of the time when you're playing these small shows or,
Hmm.
these underground things, you're you've been working on all the logistics in the background with the person who's bringing you out. You know what I mean? So if you know them already, there's that. But sometimes you're meeting new people, and then when you meet up
Hmm.
in person, it's really cool. But the one that comes to mind is like the very first time that we ever played in LA. I think it was 2002. Uh, we met Dave and Jen Batts,
Hmm.
who used to have a club called Release the Bats in
Hmm.
Long Beach. But we were actually playing in LA, and Dave was DJing, and Jen was there as well. And we just basically hit it off with them and became good buddies. And I actually mailed them out like a VHS tape because I wanted to play their club one day. And then they saw us at that event that we played, and it was baked like two peas in a pod at that point, And Dave tells really good stories about that, like I've heard him up on stage talking about it before, and it's kind of
That's
cool that
cool.
it's about us. He's a really cool guy and his wife's really cool, and he's like, yeah, I got a random thing in from the mail from some band named Tragic Black, and I don't know. And then he writes me, and he just thought it was cool because to them it's just a small club in Long Beach.
Yep.
They don't think of it as like, or did maybe they didn't at the time, but eventually I think they realized that around the world we hear about this cool club,
Hmm.
kind of like Helter Skelter. That's another famous LA goth club where like you hear like, I don't want to call it legends, but it's kind of like a legend. Kevin would tell us, oh, back in the '90s, we drove out to California, we went to Helter Skelter, and you're thinking, fuck, that sounds so cool.
Sure.
Uh, sorry for swearing, but yeah,
No,
yeah.
you're fine, man. Yeah, I usually I am somebody who, if I don't watch what I'm doing, I get nervous. It's very easy for me to swear. I usually try not to do it just because I just don't want to alienate people, but I have no
Yeah,
problem swearing myself. Like, it doesn't
yeah.
offend me. Dude, I've got years in the army, man. I've worked in oil and gas. I've worked in like driving in a truck, right? And so it's like, man, like swearing could be second nature if I allowed it to. But
Yeah.
I try to, I try to be civilized, young man. Um, so what's cool about that though, what like is not only did you grace somebody with some sense of like, holy cow, like we're actually kind of known, but also you believed in yourself, man. Like how many people just believe like, hey, I've got something, I'd like to play there. I'm gonna mail this and see what happens, right? Dude, that's awesome. That's cool, right? Not a lot of people are willing to put action to their faith, right? And so whether you believe in faith and like whatever like spirituality, universe, God, Ramsey, right? Well, I don't know what you believe in. Like whatever you believe in, man, like that, if there's goodness that's propagating from that, that sounds cool to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's one thing that I feel like it's a strength of mine. I mean, I don't know. Every band has their own way of getting out there, and I wish that I could get farther in some ways. But my genuine like interest in something, and I
Mhm.
believe in my band enough to talk about it. Like I was just talking to a band last night about Substained. He's in a
Mhm.
band I like, and I was like thinking, yeah, you should probably, it'd be cool to show it. Maybe the dude will like it. But it could also turn around and say it sucks. You know what I mean? So figured,
Mhm.
yeah, I'll take a leap. Because
Yeah.
I sent you the link to our album. And I was like,
Yep.
well, since I got the link copied, I'm gonna send it to Bro over here too. And he wrote back thinking it was great. So you just you gotta believe in yourself, and you gotta take chances. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Um, and so you've got a total of how many bands now?
well, the main ones are Tragic Black and Substained,
Hmm.
but I also do Precariat, and then I have free time for my own project, Alter a Vision.
Hmm.
And I used to do a project called Spectre Theater with a guy from Germany.
Hmm.
He was just a friend, but over time he came up with a band. And he'd write all the music, and I'd come up with lyrics and stuff. And but we haven't put out songs in like 5 years, so it's been a long time. But we still have two unreleased. So I think one day
Maybe.
we'll probably get back at it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
because
you're
I've
mainly
already
putting your
recorded vocals.
so you're mainly putting your interest into two bands then, Tragic Black and the
Substance.
Substained. Thank you. Yeah. So Precariat, I think so you got only four band members in that band?
Five. So it's the way that band formed is basically James, Jono, and Kyle
Hmm.
used to be in Tragic Black with
Yep.
me and Vile,
Yep.
but they wanted to play metal, and we tried to kind of bend in their direction, but the longer we did that, I felt kind of like unsatisfied with Tragic Black in a way because we were known as a goth band,
Right.
and I always wanted to do that, and I tried to pull them my way all the time, and then they pull me their way, and it wasn't a bad thing. It's just like, I think the album that we made with them called The Eternal Now was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I
I
liked it.
think so. In the long run, it wasn't meant to be forever. It was just meant
That's
to be
fair.
like a growing experience.
Hmm.
So I kind of came to the conclusion that I think this is about it.
Hmm.
And I just said, hey guys, why don't we just keep playing? Because we kept writing metal songs. We already had like two or three written that were going to be Tragic Black. I'm like,
Hmm.
these don't sound like Tragic Black. This is metal. Why don't we just make it its own band? That way we'll keep meeting up every Sunday like we have been, and then it frees up Tragic Black to go off and actually do stuff. And it used to be in Tragic Black, I would go over to James's house and kind of conceptualize ideas, and we'd write on this computer,
Hmm.
or we'd go to the practice space and write live songs. But it's back when James is doing the more goth stuff. That's how we do it. Work on his computer. But over all that time, I actually kind of learned how to do all that. And so
Hmm.
when James and Jono and Kyle left, it was kind of like, here it goes. Like I'm in it. It's kind of on my shoulders at this point. So I started
Mm.
writing all the drum beats and the keyboards, and I came up with a full album. I actually wrote the album before we have, officially called it Ways, and I went out and made a demo of it and I recorded it. And they just weren't as excited about it as I was hoping. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe in a year we'll work on it. I'm like, a year?
Yeah.
No, dude. But then we ended up making the album for Tragic Black Nostalgia, and we got on a label that's owned by the industrial band called Das Eek. I don't know if you've heard of that.
That sounds familiar.
It's kind of obscure. I mean, in Germany, like everyone knows it, but out here,
Hmm.
it's not like one of the main Area 51 songs, but they're cool. And so they signed us for the one album, and then they got us a show in Germany. So that
That's
it was
ICH,
all,
right? DASICH. Is that what
yeah.
it?
I think it means the it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I mean probably the only reason why I've heard of it is just because I follow you, to be honest. And
Or
so
your brother.
yeah, or yeah, maybe. I certainly have heard and listened to a lot of obscure industrial music, right? Skinny Puppy, Wumpscut, some Frontline Assembly, Assemblage. Hey, my brother actually opened up for Assemblage 23. Remember that? Back in the what was Sanctuary? Was that around for just? Yeah, I don't know. I went and joined
Hmm.
the army around
They
when it
call
was
it a few
open.
different things.
So it was open for like a
Hmm.
year,
They call it
maybe,
like
or
Club
something.
At and all these.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that?
How long was Sanctuary open? Do you remember?
It was like 6 years, but I
Okay.
I I don't know for sure. It's kind of a blur. We were always drinking
Yeah.
heavily when going there and partying, so it's
Uh,
all kind of. I remember a lot of like fuzzy memories that are good. So.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I joined the army around then, so I just have no idea. Um,
Yeah.
and then I remember, man, Salt Lake Underground. We had some cool shows. Remember coming home from military leave from I I want to say, did I just graduate AIT? Probably. I think it was just after I got trained as a combat medic. Came home, Club DV8 before it closed was putting on a show. It was what Dark Funeral, Incantation, Pissing Razors, and Cannibal Corpse for like I was like $20. Like heck yeah, man, cool. 4 shows for $20. I'm cool with that. And yeah, I didn't buy a shirt there, but I went over to the heavy metal shop and bought a shirt there just because I like to, as much as I like to support the bands, I wasn't really there to like support the bands. So I wasn't in love with any of the bands there, though Pissing Razors like probably impressed me the most. Funny name.
Mm. I don't really know
But
that.
I like giving Kirk my money, man. I like supporting the heavy metal shop, right? It was
Yeah.
growing up in Utah, it's weird when growing up in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 90s, having long hair, listening to metal, you're really segregated from fine company. And having Kirk there like normalized, like, hey, it's okay, like you're a regular person, right? Having confettis, right? Going to confettis as a young kid, right? Dude, that was
Hmm.
nice, man.
It
That
was.
was, yeah, that was just nice to have a place where I felt seen, had some friends who were also going through struggles, who weren't fragile, who didn't scream the second that they got a little bit of oppression, right? They actually kind of helped commiserate, like, man, you're going through a hard time too, so am I, man. Thanks for kind of like helping me just by sharing your struggles rather than try to demand that like I shut up, right? And so there's something about that I didn't realize that was like a
Yeah.
stoic thing. But yeah, the goth scene, man, was really good for me back in the day.
Totally. And I like the old the first heavy metal shop, on Ninth, where they had the big Slayer sign larger than the name of heavy metal shop on it.
So the first one I think was actually in Sandy.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
and
first
then
to
and
my
then
awareness.
the first one that I ever went to was that same one. It was off of 21st South, and I think it was like 13th East. It was over by
Oh,
where the Blue Boutique right used to be, if it's not still there.
Yeah,
There were
you're right.
some, yeah, there's some psychics that used to be there too, and they'd come harass you and like want you to like they pay them so they could light candles up in the mountains and pray for you. And yeah,
All
get
that's
away.
gone. There's a
Yeah.
Wasatch Brewery pretty much there now. I went there a little
Mhm.
while ago, and it was just kind of surreal how much the whole sugar house has changed. There's a lot of things where you mentioned goth in the '90s, and I just would
Mhm.
add that that that's basically the highlight of the goth era, as far as I'm aware. A
Mhm.
lot of people who are like us, we came into, we thought, oh man, too bad I wasn't born in the '80s. I could have saw
Mhm.
Bauhaus when they first started. But
Right.
yeah, but like it actually hadn't really taken off the way that it did in the '90s, and
Mhm.
so we got basically the
The best of
the
both
ass
worlds,
end
huh?
of the coolest part,
Yeah.
because like in the mid '90s it was kind of getting really good. And then right when that's when we were getting into it, like 95, 96, when that's Manson helped blow it up. And then there was a bunch of other bands that were doing good, like all the Cleopatra bands, so
Mhm.
just a really good era. And I didn't realize, I didn't realize it at the time that what we were a part of, and how cool it turned out to be,
Right.
because time goes on and things have changed. And you mentioned Assemblage 23, and why, like, they're okay to me, but it's not it I don't have the love for it that I do like London After Midnight and all those kind of bands, and so it's
Yeah.
more of the techno-y stuff that, and I despised it at the beginning. I'm like, what in the hell? Why
Mhm.
are things changing so much? BNB Nation and all this. Over time, I didn't care, but at the
Yeah.
beginning, I was like really reluctant. There's no guitars in this. There's no this. You know what I mean? It doesn't even sound. But you know, there was the big divide in the goth scene, and that's what death rock basically, because death rock was always around, like Christian Death and 45 Grid
Mhm.
and so many others. But then I didn't even realize I liked death rock until the EBM stuff came around, and then people were starting to say like, yeah, I'm more on the Corpus Delicti, Sisters of Mercy side, and I realized, oh, all these bands that I've liked this whole time, Alien Sex Fiend or whatever, that's
Mhm.
death rock. Okay, well, cool. I thought it was goth, but works for me. Death rock it is.
So when James and I went to see Tool in concert just recently,
Mm,
Sisters of Mercy was one of the filler songs as they were setting up stage. And yeah, it's interesting when you just kind of hearing what bands choose, right, to kind of throw as music in between, setup. And yeah, Sisters of Mercy was a good band, man. I did like them. You and I actually did go see Bauhaus together, didn't we? Where was that? Somewhere downtown Salt Lake,
Saltaire.
wasn't it? Was it Salt? Oh, it's Saltaire.
It was
That's
Saltaire.
right. That's right. And then
Yeah,
you and I also went to see Megadeth
that
in
was a
Saltaire.
crazy weekend for me.
Yeah.
Yep, Megadeth
Yes.
too. Megadeth and Misfits.
Yep. Yeah, I never did get around to seeing Glenn Danzig live, right? That was Michael Graves, but dude, I was still the music was good. It was weird though. Like nobody wanted to give Michael Graves anything, man. They just stood there. Like you remember that, man? During Misfits, everyone just stood there. And like he's singing, he's like, come on, everyone, let's mosh. And like the music was like you think like thrashy enough to be able to like want to bounce, but nobody moved. The second the
There was one guy
second
talking
Megadeth,
shit too.
yeah, yep. Um, and the
At
second that
least one.
Megadeth started setting up, dude, everyone started going nuts.
Yeah, that was one of the more wild concerts I've been to. Where you feared for your life for a couple of times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was the Cryptic Writings tour, man. Yeah, for
Mhm,
sure. Like dude, the sound and just how cacophonous and how strong the sound is in Salt Air, dude, it's impressive. It
mhm.
is seriously impressive. I saw Corn there, on the Life is Peachy tour as well, dude. I mean, the sound is phenomenal.
A lot of people talk crap about it, though. They say that it isn't good, and I just I suppose it's where you're standing in the building. I'm usually towards the front somewhere, off to the side, so I don't have to deal with all the moshing. But
Hmm.
unless I'm really into it, and I'm willing to suffer through it. But
Right.
like with Megadeth,
Yeah.
I got kicked and punched and all this crap. So
Yeah, that's a lot to go, especially now, dude. I'm in, I mean, well, we're in our 40s now, right? And it's just like, I don't want to stay up all night and get punched in the ribs and you just feel all beat up, right? I just I want to I want to relax. You know, I don't want to tell the kids to, damn kids, get off my lawn. I'm not quite that old, but I might want to find a Snuggie somewhere. I don't own one yet, but I probably should. And then just kind of like just sit there and not really leave my house. I'm like, I feel good. Yeah. Um, but yeah, dude, I don't know, man. It's interesting how strange people are, how different they are, and yet how much of the same thing that we really desire, just respect amongst others, to try to like feel like we actually did something, to actually try to accomplish something. And I think if there's one thing that going to confettis really taught me is the difference between being that guy who sits on the sidelines and makes fun of people who go out there and dance and look silly versus the guy who's willing to go out and dance and look silly. And if you're the latter, there's no world where you don't become better. You just if you're willing to look silly, you just become better, man. It's just the way it is. But if you just sit there and just like make fun of people and you're too cowardly to actually engage, well, you're just gonna become a rotten souled person, most likely.
I agree, and I'd add that I think that what helped me being a singer, it was being a goth kid in that era, you know, because I already felt like I was on stage because everyone was already looking or saying something, you know what I mean? So by the time I was on stage, it just felt more empowering, you know. I felt like
Mhm.
now this is supposed to happen as opposed to it just happening by, you know, just naturally. Now it's like supposed to happen, and it got me going. I never felt like, I'm afraid that people are looking at me. It's like, well, I kind of got used to that by people looking at me or talking crap when we were younger or whatever, you know. So
Mhm.
I think that really helped out.
That's interesting, man. So you actually used something where people were trying to tyrannize you and tear you down, and instead of allowing it to tear you down, you allowed it to make you stronger and much, much more invulnerable when you were outperforming.
Hmm. Yeah, like before a show, you always get kind of like kind of the antsy feeling, like you're worried about the sound and everything, like
Mhm.
people are going to show up and things like that. But as far as like being on stage when you actually are playing, I feel good about that. So, and I think I can attribute that to the, back, dancing at Betty's or walking down the halls in high school, So,
Mhm. Man, yeah, dude. It's insane. Like, it's insane just how cowardly people are and just how rude that makes them. Just, yeah, I mean, just, speaking of high school, I
mm,
don't think that there was a single day that I went to high school where I wasn't like psychologically tormented by people. I mean, it did make me a
mm-hmm.
stronger person, sure. And yeah, it's odd, man, very odd. And so I'm actually pretty happy with where I am in life now, how I'm actually in a position to be able to community build and hopefully show people where tearing others down is just a bad idea. It's just not useful. It's completely counterproductive. It makes them mad at you. Whatever energy that they would give towards the community, they're now going to give towards tearing you down because you made them butthurt. And like, yeah, there's something about just being a part of trying to build people up and just being part of a community. And as much as I was raised as a secular dude, and as secular as I am now, and as much as I'm, smitten by science, I found myself actually fellowshipping with the LDS community a lot. I go there every Sunday. I went and cleaned the church in my ward, and I'm not a member, but I do go and I like them. They certainly have wisdom and stuff that they can share with me, and there's something to that. I feel like I'm a stronger person when I'm able to engage with people who I know think differently than me. And I hope, if nothing else, whatever I can give to the community is maybe that, right? That idea that, hey, not only is it okay that you can communicate with people who disagree with you, but it makes you stronger and a better person.
Yeah. I totally feel you on that. People, we get a lot of that on like when we go on a road trip or something, we talk about all kinds of things, and pretty much everyone's got a different opinion on pretty much everything. So, whether it's religion or politics or just different issues that go on in life, people handle them differently. And it's cool because, Ben, he's a good example. Like he'll do things like on the road that end up changing my like the way that I live in a way. Like we when we were touring in Europe, he would always go out of his way to clean up things. So like if we stayed at a hotel, even though there's a room service that's getting paid to come clean it, he'd spend time fixing it up, or somebody's house, he'd try to make it look better than it did when we got there.
Hmm.
And that's not something that I automatically did at the very beginning. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go make sure that I don't know, fold up all the blankets or something. You know what I mean? Like I didn't automatically do that, but I saw him doing that. Now I do that. So it was just like it's cool to be around people who don't, that have different views and different practices, and then you end up picking up good things. So.
Well, and what I like about that too is right now here's the overlap of some couple of goth kids and Jocko Willink, man. Jocko Willink's a Navy SEAL who talks about responsibility equals freedom. And so when you see somebody taking responsibility to make their little part of the world a little bit better, and you're inspired by it, well, dude, that's amazing
Mhm.
because the thing is your freedom is my responsibility. And so if I can inspire you to be a little bit more responsible, well, gravy, man. That's actually how like we make our community better. And so that's awesome that and so this has been what commonly known as Stitch, right? Is
Mhm.
that's his moniker,
Or
right?
Steve.
Or what?
He tells people that his name is Jonathan when we're on the road, though.
Jonathan? That's awesome.
Yeah, he's just a really funny guy, and like,
Yeah.
hi, who are you? My name's Jonathan. What band are you in? Nine Inch Nails. And people will believe him
I mean, he looks like
because no
Nikki
one knows who
Sixx,
the
man.
guitar player is in Nine Inch Nails,
Yeah.
So it's like you could just lie to him.
Well, I mean, he looks like Nikki Sixx, so like I like if he told me that that he was in part of a successful band, sure, man. I've got no reason to, unless I know exactly who's in that band, got no reason to disbelieve you. And
Mhm.
he carries himself that
Yeah,
way too, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
and he's a great guy. So. I'm
yeah,
really
dude.
happy that he's back in Tragic Black, by the way. And that's kind of the conclusion of that story I told you earlier. When Jono and Kyle and James left, it was like, well, who's going to play guitar? We just all we have is vocals and bass right now, and then whatever backing tracks that I make. Then I was like, hey Ben, do you want to join Tragic Black for like the third or fourth time? I don't know how many times it's been now. And he's like, yeah, and it just stuck. So, hooray!
That's cool. Hooray. Yeah, you guys
Mm-hmm.
have been around for a long time, man. Lots and lots of albums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. And then you did mention that you had five band members in Precariat, right? Who's your fifth one?
He's the guy, Ryan. He's the guitar player for Substained.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. I'm not sure if I've met Ryan, but
But
all
he's
the other guys are all
yeah,
my homies, right? You included. Like
yeah.
um Jono and Kyle, I'd be over there with their old roommate. We'd be playing some Mortal Kombat, dude. Dude, that was so fun, man. I miss hanging out with those guys. They were cool. I think that was back when Words with Friends was a big popular thing. And yeah. Yeah, fun times, man. There's something about that. Sharing camaraderie, and then also like we used to give each other a lot of shit, man. We really would. We'd give each other. We would just poke, and that's part of like you and I would do that too. You, Judd, and I would really do that and really just grill each other, right? Um, and there's something about laughing, like being able to laugh at yourself and then being able to turn it around and viciously laugh at your friends. It really, I don't know, man. It builds a bond that you just never forget. I mean, hell, we've known
I
each other since what, 1998, I think. Does that sound right? 90, yeah, I think it's right. Was that your sophomore year, 98?
No, it was before that because I graduated in '99. And so it would have been '96 because that's my
Okay.
freshman year of high school.
Okay. Well, and so
Because
things are fuzzy for me because they kicked me out my senior year, right? They didn't like me. Remember when I would show up every once in a while like these clothes I would never wear, never ever wear. They're all colorful. They're not black at all. I'd wear like a hat to hide my long hair, and I would just like walk up next to you guys, and then you guys are like, "Whoa, hey, what's up, man?" And but yeah, yeah, I scared them, man. They didn't like me. I mean, my senior year, I've got blue lips from drinking a brainwash right before, and just I kind of forgot. I just didn't care. Like I mean, this was a community that really didn't went out of its way to let me know that I was not welcome. So it was hard for me to have a sense of school pride. Um, the army
Mhm.
actually, I think it took the army to really help me grow up, but not until after I got out. Right, I was still that was weird for me because I was somebody with a giant chip on my shoulder, and I allowed my brother James to convince me that you know what, Josh, with that raging chip on your shoulder, you know what you need is a totalitarian environment. Yeah. No. But it helps, man. It helps to like get in your own way and then be able to recognize that, this is exactly what happens when I'm in my own way and I purposely make life harder than it needs to be. And what happens if you quit being stupid? And so the army taught me that a lot of that, and that's probably the most valuable lesson I could have possibly asked to be taught.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wishes I would have maybe tried something like that, but I thought at the time it was somewhere I would never want to be. The idea of boot camp just sounded like a real pain, and I know it is, and so I was like, I don't think I could have. I mean, I'm sure I could have done it, but I didn't want to do it, you
Yeah.
know. But I have deep respect for those who do, because I was like, well, if you can put up with all that and come out a better person. I don't know. That's pretty cool. My dad always talked about it, and so I had I was impressed by people who did it, and so you are one of them.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. Yeah, and dude, do you remember your dad the first time I came home? And do you just how like proud your dad was? Just like, yeah, man, look at him. Like my chest was a little bit bigger, right? I was standing up a little bit taller,
Yeah, he
and
was happy to hear
yeah,
that. He's looking
yeah.
at me like, yeah, he went to the army. Yeah,
Yeah, what are you waiting for? And if he
yeah.
and then imagine, dude, imagine if your dad was still alive, and then Taryn and I came, and like here we are, guys who served in the army, like, Derek, what are you doing, Derek? What did you do with your life?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, dude, Dave, your dad was a trip. He was um he was somebody who was very set in his ways. He was much ruder than he needed to be. But as somebody who is learning to survive in life, it's good to be around a-holes, man. And Dave definitely was an a-hole, right? I mean, like not no disrespect at all. It's just kind of how his grumpy disposition. He had a dog. He had a dog that was like the mirror of his disposition. Dude, Scar, dude, Scar scared
Yeah.
me, dude. Scared me. If Scar wasn't on a chain, dude, I thought Scar would murder me, man. And so,
Hmm.
um, but like being around that, man, being around somebody is dangerous. Like you just know that this is a monster, and so you tread lightly around monsters. It teaches you again also be a stronger person. And if you can learn to be grateful around those types of situations, it teaches you to be a stronger and better person. And so
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's cool. I think that we often spend more time trying to be offended than trying to figure out how we can actually just be better.
Yeah. I feel you. Yeah, most of the time, that's like with social media, I'm pretty much uninvolved. I mean, I just don't. I don't know, like the nature of it, the way that it's kind of evolved. I think MySpace was a little bit better in a way because it was just more about showing kind of like your either like who you are or who you want to be or things like that. Like you just show a picture. You didn't get into too much the weeds. I don't know, and now it's more like people like taking sides on issues and like uh, you know battling those who don't agree with them, and it's just like god man, like I'm of the opinion that you can have your own opinion, and I don't have to agree with it,
Yeah.
and I can still think you're pretty cool. It's kind of like with religion. I used to tell Judd that I don't have to think their religion is good, and he's like, no, you have to respect someone's religion. I'm like, no, that's the one thing you don't have to respect. You can respect them. But like it's kind of like anyone's politics or their religion. They're entitled to think or believe however they want. It's kind of how they act in the world. So you can be whatever religion, whatever politics, and as long as I find you to be a pretty nice guy or something like that, I'm not gonna have any problem with it, even though it might not be my cup of tea, you know?
Well, and so what I like about that is just because you're an American doesn't mean that you can't have a bad idea. And just because you have a bad idea doesn't mean that you're no longer an American, right? And so, I mean, aren't we allowed to have bad ideas? Isn't that what the First Amendment's about? And if we start saying, well, we need to be protected from bad ideas, well, who's going to be the protector? And therein lies the biggest problem. And I think that comes back down to why Ben Franklin said that those who are willing to give up freedom for security deserve neither, because
Yeah,
life is supposed to be rough and life is supposed to be scary. And you're supposed to become stronger in order to figure out how to deal with those obstacles, right? You don't become better by being pudgy and weak. You become better by being strong and actually trying to get after it. um and you don't have to be
that
a,
makes
a,
sense.
a bodybuilder, but like you, man, right? You dealt with the same psychological trauma I did, people screaming at you every day, throwing bottles at you, um and yet you use that same tenacity and same resilience to then go up and do something that you love, which is be a front man for several bands.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that
things
I
like that,
mean,
it's like, you
that's
have
a
to cry
religious
about it,
experience.
one
Yeah.
day you might feel like it, but you can just learn, you know?
Well, I mean,
You
dude,
can
I
sit
mean,
there and
that's
boost about it.
religious, man. Becoming better in that way, like that's easily a path from out of hell into some approximation of heaven, right? Or at least towards a goal. And like, how is that not religious? And so with what you said, like if you're just a good person and you believe in some level of goodness that like gives back more than it takes away, cool, dude. Awesome. Let's hang out, right? Let's be part of that community.
Yeah, totally. There's certain I can only think of one friend of ours, I won't name names, but you'll know who I'm talking about, a real negative Nancy that, I wanted to, like, stay friends, but, every time I'd say anything, dude's, like, always got something bad to say about it? And I put up with it for, like, a couple years, and I'm like, "Dude," I'm like, "I think I'm just gonna say peace out," because I'm willing to, like, be friends with people who are weird and kind of a pain in the ass, but when they're constantly, like I'm of the opinion that, let's say you like a band and I don't like
Mhm.
that band, and you're going off about how cool the band is, and you're showing me the song. What I try to do is find something about it I do like, maybe the drumming or like the guitar playing or something, but I hate the vocals. Or I'm not gonna sit there and say, "Oh my, that's the worst thing I've ever heard." Instead I'll say, "Yeah, they got pretty good," and I'll find something about it that I do like, or I'll try to, you know what I mean? I'll try to feed into them in a positive way without tearing whatever they love down, but without lying at the same time. I'm like, oh, yeah, it was great, but if I really hate it, or I'll try to, I'll try to find something I do like about it. Like it,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So
Dude, I know
that's how
exactly
I
what you
like to
mean.
approach things.
Dude, I love that. And the thing is that same attitude, man. I mean, I think this is why we like each other so much, to be honest. That same attitude is what I try to bring when I go to the LDS church. There's people who go up there and they may not be playing their favorite band, but they're saying their favorite lines. Brothers and sisters, I know that Joseph Smith is the one true prophet. And it's like, okay, well, like it sounds like you've said that before. It sounds like you said it so much that you may not know exactly what it is that means. I would love to actually hear you like express that from your heart, but I don't need to like criticize you. So what if I just said, you know what? Maybe they just aren't very good at articulating their point. And maybe this is just them
Yeah,
telling me that this is the greatest idea of goodness that they can conceive of. And then it's up to me to then translate, well, what does that mean in my life? Um, and once I started giving people that respect, and just assuming that, if I don't understand what they're saying, what if I give them a little bit more rather than just assume that they're morons, right? And that I need to come on like Dr. Phil, like, haven't you read my book, right? Don't you know how smart I am? Um,
hmm
and yeah, I found that I became a much better person, because I can get out of my own way a lot more.
that's cool.
Yeah. Um, and then you've traveled and toured Europe for some of your goth tours quite a bit, isn't that correct?
Yeah, we only did one actual tour for like about 3 weeks,
Hmm.
but then we played at a festival um, which is kind of the highlight because all the people who we played in front of on the tour is a fraction of the one gig at the festival that we got to play 3 times. So that's kind
Nice.
of say the highlight. But the tour was nice in the way of just seeing Europe because I always wanted to go and see what it's like and see castles and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
that was the highlight of it. Playing in front of like 30 people, when you're like spending all this money to go out there was, kind of like, I mean, no offense to the 30 people, but you kind of wish that it was like some grand thing and, you get like a small night, kind of like you would at maybe a local show or something. And
Yeah.
that way, some of those shows were small, or a lot of them were. And whatever, you just got to realize that's how it is, you got to put forth the effort in order to reach more people. And plus it's okay to not have a lot of people because this is an obscure style of music, and that's okay. It means a lot to those small amount of people, so like we played a crazy show in Norway, I kind of got in trouble at that show. Yeah, well, I didn't really do anything, but like I'm always like up in people's faces when I'm singing.
Mhm.
Some girl kissed me, and some dude was videotaping it. So it could have just been like a thing that happened and like wow, and tell the wife about it when I got home. But
Uh,
no, the dude had to go and post a video, and the next thing I know, I'm being told all my stuff is going to be thrown out on the street when
oh
before I
my
go home. I'm
god.
like, I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
can look at the video. I mean, I wasn't expecting this to happen. You know what I mean? And so, but the people told us that the show was legendary. I was like, whoa. So and then we got
That's
stranded.
cool. Well, maybe you deserved the kiss. You probably didn't deserve the
Yeah.
fallout, but
Well, well, she and my ex, me and that was my ex-wife, and so we're divorced, so it doesn't really
yeah.
matter. But
Yeah,
anymore.
well, that's cool, man. I actually, when I was in the army, I served with a Finnish soldier that told me that if you're an American and you go over to Scandinavia, specifically Finland, but Norway is close, that the girls there, they just love Americans, man, and they love the
Mm,
American accent. So that's funny. Them just somebody randomly kissing you actually fits exactly with kind of how he told me how bold a lot of the ladies are over there. And I mean, what do I know, man? I've never been over there, but yeah, dude, it was so much fun talking to people from different cultures. We had Norwegian army guys come through, and we'd have like a mass casualty situation where it was fake, of course, but they'd put like these fake burns all over their arms, and I think I lost the pictures, which makes me sad. But I had like these pictures of like this Norwegian guy, all these burns on his arms, just right in his military uniform, and um, yeah, man, there's something about that. Just kind of growing, finding your place in the world. Life is hard. It's supposed to be. Life isn't supposed to be easy. And you come out a better person when you do something hard. You really do.
yeah, yeah, good point.
Yeah. Well, dude, I've enjoyed kind of connecting, man. This is cool. I think that if there's anything again, so I don't really like making everything I talk about politics. I will be running
Yeah,
for political office, but I really am more important inclined to talk about community, man. I mean, because that's really what's most important to me. Because I think if you're not building communities, well, you're full of it. And like you said, right, there's much more meaning in building people up than tearing people down.
yeah. The one thing I would add to the idea of community, it's a word that gets overused.
Hmm.
In my opinion, at least, like the gay community, the black
Hmm.
community, and I'm thinking not all black people know each other. Not all gay people, kind of thing like that. And so the way that I like to think of community is not based upon like race or like gender or things like that. More like people you're actually around. Like you're going to LDS church on the Sunday.
Yep.
That is an actual community, and I
Yep.
think that makes sense. Like when I think of my community, I don't think only metalhead people or gothics or something like that. I think because I live near I don't even know the next person who goes to the shows that lives by me. You know what I mean? So instead, I think of my neighbors
Hmm.
who belong to all kinds of races and genders. You know what I mean? And so it's like I think that's one thing I would just add that try to like think of community as like you're gonna run for political office. you're not here to represent the entire like for the white people because I'm a white guy. See, so it's the white community.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, well, you would be in trouble if you said that too. But you know what I mean. But like, what it means is like you're here to like actual people in your who you're representing, and I think that's cool to
Yeah,
try to
whatever
like.
you look like, whatever your thoughts are, even if sometimes those thoughts are what I might consider bad ideas, man. Well, you're still here, right? You're still like part of this community. Like that doesn't just because you have a bad idea doesn't mean that you're no longer an American,
Mhm.
that you just divorce doesn't mean you divorce yourself of your rights. And we need to I think that the more that we give people space to figure out like themselves, especially during a pandemic, I think that we'll find that will be much better. And hopefully, I can inspire people just by sharing with them kind of my own, you know, I guess tragically black, kind
Yeah.
of right, just kind of history and past, and just kind of the struggles that I've had to go through, what I've endured, how I've come through, the friends I've made along the way, and how the people I respect the most are people who have endured and suffered hardship and also come out the other end with kind of like being grateful and wanting to give back, and not the ones that you said just take away from your existence and just like, "Nyeh, nyeh, nyeh,"
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Well, good on you, and good luck with connecting with your community, and meeting people whose voices they want you to represent, and hopefully you can have some luck in gaining office and improving things in whatever way. I mean, like, and it seems like I can't really think of a time where like I got like a specific government thing that's helped me, but I think the thing that helps me the most is the quality of life that we have. That's I think the most concrete thing I can think of. Stable, like not letting everything go to crap, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like being responsible, and I think that's conserving what is good and trying to improve where you can. Um, Building things up versus tearing things down. You know what I mean? Like if you think something's wrong, well then improve it.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so good luck
Yeah.
with all that, man.
Thanks, man. And you know what? From a secularist who plays with spirituality, may God bless you and help you prosper, man. Like you certainly are a good person who goes out there, gets after it, and tries to help others in that space as well. And whatever, like, Christians often say God is good. Well, to me, the logical conclusion of saying God is good is that wherever there's goodness, well, God is right there. And so just go out and be good. Just be a good person.
Okay, right back at you, man. And
Awesome, man.
you know, may the gods be with you.
And may the force be with you.
Yes, yes.
Awesome, man. Hey, you have a wonderful rest of your